Hi everyone, welcome to the WorkTalk series. And my name is Indy. And this series we talk about product and services related to latest technology trends and individuals. And today we have the opportunity to connect with Demetrio. Demetrio has been working in the Workday ecosystem for quite some time and also has experience in the immersive technologies. Those two topics we will be talking today, but I'll let Demetrio introduce himself. Hey, Demetrio, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Thank you. Appreciate it. Pretty good. It was for a Floridian. It was kind of cold yesterday, below 60 degrees, but now it's much better and warmer.
Much better than Texas. I think Florida is always, the weather-wise it's nice. But
Yeah.
just want to let our viewers or the listeners know this is our third take. We were trying to do this in immersive technology, but we are now in a 2D space. But hopefully in the future we will be able to bring these talk series in a more of immersive way and leveraging the technology. But Demetrio, why don't we start off with the introduction? I know you have spent many, many years in the Workday ecosystem. Tell us a little bit about your background, what you have been doing, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it. So yeah, I've been in the ecosystem. Wow. I'm looking at the calendar now. And I'm starting to have to calculate from 2025. So now it's almost 15 years
Wow.
going in the Workday ecosystem. And so I started out as right out of college, going right into a small boutique consulting firm. They needed developers to, do integrations and reports and things like that. And so jumped right into that, and from there started growing and leading deployment projects, and eventually kind of got bored of that deployment lifestyle, moved into post production, helping clients optimize and seeing all of the things we were deploying on the deployment side, seeing all the things that we missed or didn't
Hmm.
do as well as we probably could have, from a maintenance perspective. And so I got really deep into that post production lifestyle. And then after that, I saw this cool new toy called Extend, and so I fell in love with that product and really want to push that
We'll
kind
talk
of.
about that in a
Yeah.
little bit. I
Mhm.
know there were a couple of terms that have been used. I've
Right.
spent 10 plus years in the Workday ecosystem. But prior to that, where do you see yourself? Like, are you on the functional side or the technical side? Which area did you start off initially?
Yeah, that's so I've become a jack of all trades. So when they brought us on to do development work, they gave us an HCM certificate, an integration certificate, just so that we had good mastery of the system. And I was able to preserve that and keep it tuned and kept working on a variety of items. And so I've become this very generalist HRIS HRIT type of generalist. I can take on anything technical, but also speak to the soft side or the functional side of HR services and things that are being delivered. But at heart, I'm an integration person. I like to get data from one system to another system and make sure that it gets is good quality.
Very good, very good. And for some of the viewers who want to get into the Workday ecosystem, both from technical and functional side, I guess from the integrations perspective, what type of skill sets a person should have if they want to move into the Workday ecosystem from the integration side?
Yeah, from there, I would say the key capability for somebody is to be able to break down problems. And this applies almost to any technical work that you're trying to complete, is being able to take something that's this big monolithic problem and then break it down into smaller solvable problems. I would say that's the number one capability skill set to have. The other one is going to be able to understand processes and look at how something starts, what transformations steps it goes through, and then what is the end state of that problem or process. And then the third one is of course being able to work with people, connecting with people, understanding what problems they have and trying to help them solve those problems. I think that's a piece that sometimes gets forgotten, is that you're just focused on code and getting the
Right.
data from one system to another, but there's always a person on each end of that, of those two steps there.
Yeah, that's very critical on the consulting side. So what do you say from the code perspective? What type of technologies have you worked on the integrations?
Yeah, so I'm so ancient that we were raised on XML and XSLE. So it's kind of what our bread and butter was at that time. Was it the best language or script or whatever? Probably not, but it was what was used. And I think that's another important thing with technology is that it's not going to always be the best technology. It's
Hmm.
going to be what works and what
Right.
people can take on and do. So yeah, that is where we started XML, XSLT, and its basic functions. Uh, and and so from a coding perspective, I think the most important concepts or ideas for technical is understanding loops, variables, and functions. Those are the core things that you should know as to do any sort of programming off the top of my head.
Okay, very nice. So I'm more on the functional side. So I've been with the Workday ecosystem. I've seen on the financials, and but, the one of the things that I really love about Workday as a product is the innovation, right? The iteration of the functions and the functionality that within the product itself. So you have mentioned briefly earlier about Workday Extend. I believe it was called the Workday Cloud Platform earlier. It might be something else prior to that.
Yeah.
I'm not from the technical side, but shed some light on it, how that came along, because I know integrations were there, and then this eventually turning into Extend. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so and I wouldn't be able to talk about Workday Extend where what it used to be called Workday Cloud Platform without mentioning what we do as integration people or technical people is that we, like I was saying, getting data from one system to another system, transforming it in between. And that's a core function of being able to use an HR system. It's in sitting within your
Hmm.
enterprise. You need it to go have data going everywhere. However, there's also the human side of things where you want to get people to use the system to be able to enter in data, validate data, do basically go through the system and enter in data, do things within the system. And so something that Workday had not really cornered the market. They had built products for all customers, right? They had this monolithic code that is for all customers. So they focus and invest on cases where there's a feature product that works for everybody that wants that product. And so what what happened is that you ended up in cases where customers were needing very niche solutions or niche ways to get information into Workday or out of Workday. And so that's where I believe the Extend came from. That need is where specific clients had these needs to have users enter data, and they had these external SharePoints to manage information and things like that. And so this is where Extend became the capability to allow or enable this, where you could build basically page forms within the
Hmm.
Workday application itself to allow people to go to a page and pull all your Workday data. You could use your transform it as well and display it to the user. And so instead of getting data from one system to another system, the extend is what's getting data to turning it into information to the user, and giving the user the opportunity to take data that's sitting in the tenant, turn it into information, and then you're pushing it back into your application so that you can then use it to drive other processes and other features. And so it's at the basic form or basic level. Extend is basically a data entry form, but it's really a user experience to guide the user to enter data, validate data, push things around. There's a lot of technology on the back end of Extend, which is also useful for automations and things like that. But I really appreciate the fact that it gives people the ability to interact with the system, the Workday system, in a different way, in a niche way that allows us to extend the system
Yeah.
beyond what Workday delivers out of the box.
Yes, truly that the extend the functionality of sometimes you have very specific use cases within an industry or within a business that Workday allows you to do. And within this the whole framework, because these apps, if you will, they sit in, correct me if I'm wrong, they sit in within the Workday's framework and leveraging the security and other components that are part of the product itself, and really help customers to have the seamless, UI and UX from that side. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. That it gets a lot of value from having the security group, the security model. It's definitely an underappreciated because security is so complicated. But
Mm.
being able to just take whatever security is already in the system and then apply it to your pages is an enormous step. Because back in the day, they had to do SharePoints and only give the links to certain people or tell, oh, you're not supposed to have that or you're supposed to. And that was a lot to handle. And with Extend, you're tapped into the security model and the automated updates, regression testing that Workday does for all its. So it's powerful to have the backend
Yeah.
taken
So
care
we
of from work.
Yeah, definitely. I think we won't go too deep in the technical side of it, but in a
Yeah.
nutshell, these apps, I mean, it's amazing how they sit within Workday itself, and companies are able to leverage that technology. But what are some of the cool use cases have you seen, without mentioning, the names, but just
Yeah.
a problem that apps are solving for the customers?
Yeah, so cool is could be subjective, right? So cool for me is yeah, the
Or
for me cool
usability
is like
wise, I would say.
okay, yeah, maybe usability because cool for me is like look, oh, they got all this data on the screen and they are accepting all these inputs and they're submitting it. That's cool to me. Like to be
Right.
able to get a lot of data on screen and people can just, easily do something. But in terms of neat features that clients are untapping or unlocking, one big one that I was actually part of was a employee resource group where we were able to create a framework within the Extend app to allow people to create groups, resource groups, and basically subscribe to a group, create events, create basically a give people the ability to connect with each other, and it was all controlled and customizable within the Workday Extend. So that is one cool feature that I saw.
Very good.
So, uh, yeah, that's like my favorite so far use case. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you could do with Extend that help connect together, which is I think one key part of to have an enterprise system is getting people connected and sharing information with each other.
Yep. Thank you for telling us about that. And now, how do you see, like, we have seen the innovation, from the integration days where a lot of items were manual. Workday has helped companies automate a lot of their processes by using the app. Workday Business Process Framework is very powerful when we look at on the business process side on the financials, because I remember back in the days a lot of processes were very manual, but leveraging that technology helps it. But how do you see overall from the future of work perspective? How is Workday impacting, these big Fortune 500 companies, as well as smaller company, medium sized companies, to look at the future of work and how we are evolving from that perspective?
Yes, I think it's allowing the culture to shift towards going online, going to the
Hmm.
web, going and having data at your fingertips, basically, being able to have access to information and drive better decisions as well from that. I think it's changing the culture to get to that point. And with Workday having those business processes, that's now we're getting good data working on. And I think it's changing that culture in terms of we could see in the future is much more data being brought into the system to be interacted with, turned into information, and it's really going to be just having it all online. Basically, is having that information easily pulled into whatever processes you're working through.
In the cloud. Okay. Makes sense. So we're gonna shift some
Yeah,
gears, and we've been hearing a lot of
yeah,
things about this new technology that has come out. We have talked about it before personally. We're going to talk about virtual reality. You know, how do you see that evolving? Because we hear a lot of terms, right? AR, XR, mixed reality, spatial computing, metaverse, whatever you want to call it. But recent
XR.
enough, yeah, XR, all these technologies.
Yeah.
I know it's not specific about Workday. What do you have to say about that?
Yep. So I almost consider myself like an old timer because I got into VR around 2017, 16, 17. But then I talked to other people and they're like been in it since the 90s.
Yeah,
And so they're yeah, it's an ongoing evolution and growth of this technology of being able to display information in a 3D format. I think the core piece is whatever it is, it's basically to get information. So I say the 90s and then the technology strikes. And so it goes back to uh, being able to get information to a person. That's basically what it is. That what
right.
the name of the game, the digital transformation is meant to just help people get data, get information, and make decisions. And so spatial computing, XR, whatever it's called, is that's what we're trying to do. And that's hopefully where we can get to.
Yep. And essentially moving from the 2D world to the 3D world, that's the idea. But a lot of times you think about that is how do we track information from the people, right? We have seen phones, tracking the information. Now we have devices that are able to do that. But Apple's move into this market, they have announced, they have released their product on February 2nd, Apple Vision Pro, which is Apple being the market leader in the technology. Their move into the spatial computing, they're calling it. They don't want to call it virtual reality or augmented reality. How will that impact the market overall, and even on the enterprise side? How do you see developers, taking advantage of this new technology?
I definitely think it's going to be something where the developers are probably the main consumers
Yeah,
of this
high
technology.
priced.
The pri- yeah, the exactly the price point is just way out there. The requirements to be signed up, it requires you to have certain game engines that you're subscribed to, and a lot of terms and conditions. And so I do know that they're controlling the market or the product developers. So it is heavily focused on giving the opportunity to build things. Despite what you see on LinkedIn with all the hype and the videos and people are running around with it,
On
that
the
will
streets.
probably die down. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Driving Teslas and stuff. So that will die down, and people will kind of just go back to what it was. What we saw a year ago with the product. So I don't see it's going to be a shift, a mega shift for the next year for when that's more stuff is coming out. What I do see is a long term cultural change eventually that we will see, not cultural, but societal change where we will find apps that are useful, features that were delivered that can be delivered at a much lower cost and useful people.
yeah,
Productivity apps will probably give us where what we're looking for in terms of use. And for now, I think the main advantage Apple has right now is the fact that they have this iLife platform, the
right.
iPhone, iWatch, i
Hmm.
whatever. All those apps, if they can connect them together and they have that control, that they could probably get some apps to be usable across all the platforms and useful in their different device types, and that becomes something that's a powerful value proposition. But definitely, I don't see consumers adopting this on a general basis. It'll be something that takes the developers some time to figure out, and then we'll see maybe in a year or two apps that are actually usable, and then the device cost will go down. I think they may actually even release like a lower cost, version of it, and then they
Right.
keep their high price thing for high fidelity uses.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking because you're right. Apple's app ecosystem definitely will play a big role because that played a big role in iPhone's success as the developers have started, developing apps and it taken us to the next level. The same shift we could see with this product itself. We're coming towards the end of this podcast. This is the first series. I'm sure we'll have more in the series in the coming weeks or the months. But how do you see AI, playing a role with this new technology? Let's wrap it up with that because everybody's
Yeah.
talking about AI. We cannot, end this podcast without
Wi-
touching on AI.
Without talking about it. Yeah, no, all the buzzwords. We need to hit all the buzzwords every time. And so yeah, with AI, I definitely have been it's an interesting ride to talk with ChatGPT and all the other, GPT models because it's like, yep, it doesn't know everything that I know just based on experience, but it'll help reduce effort. So that is one big thing, and this is unconnected to VR, XR computing, spatial computing, but it reduces the effort, reduces the tedious work that somebody that knows how to do something, that it'll take away that type of effort, make it that so we could focus on things that are a little bit higher value. It won't replace knowledge, it won't replace experience. So knowing that when it comes to how AI can interact or support spatial computing, XR, metaverse type of things, the way I see it is it's going to allow us to create models, create things that normally would take somebody a long time to align and set up in a scene in order for it to be rendered to a person. I think it'll reduce greatly the effort of creating a virtual space that has information, data, and actions available for people to take. And you just tell the AI or the bot, whatever, to, hey, set up in this scene and try to consider this factor and this other factor and try to move and arrange things so that it's more aligned with the person that's doing the experience. And it doesn't require a programmer to type out each of these factors and these dimensions that have to be accounted for. I think that's where AI is going to be very helpful as it relates to XR, spatial computing
Mhm.
technologies, being able to allow the scene to be rendered in a much more better way.
Very well said. Yes, I mean, definitely, I
Mhm.
think these new technology, we're still in the very early phase of this and how it will impact the lives both on the consumer side and the enterprise side that yet to be seen, but we'll definitely see the progress in 2024. Demetrio, I appreciate you joining us on the conversation. It's always a pleasure to connect with you on these technology components, but I'm sure I will connect again in the future. Um, so thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a good one.
All right.